and welcome to another episode of the Quotes and Mirrors podcast. I am Tyrell James.
And I am uncommentary. What's this, episode 4?
Yep, episode 4.
All right, cool. Who's counting? Me, this guy. I'm counting.
Well,
Yes.
with my other podcast, I used to okay, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Man, after a while, I was like, I'm not counting anymore, man. I'm done. I couldn't remember it after a while. I couldn't even remember. So
I don't have another podcast, so I'm counting. Okay, so welcome to episode 4 of Quotes in Mirrors. If you don't know what we do here, we do go ahead and give a quote every week. We break it down, see what we think about it from our perspective. We can see what you think about it from your perspective. You have to go ahead and enter something to the chat, email, something we haven't even given you yet. But we will get into it. So
you can still comment though. You can still comment. So
okay, that's what's
up. Because the show is on Facebook, it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, so they can always comment on any of those places. So
cool. I'll be doubling back just to see what they say too.
Yeah, let us know what you feel. Either way, good or bad, cuss us out, whatever. I don't care about the feedback. Just
nope, we're here for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Or you can even send us quotes.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't hurt at all. Go ahead and feed into the situation. Give us a quote, something you want us to break down. You want to hear from our perspective. I'm all for
it. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. We would appreciate that. But so tonight's quote is, "The greater your gift is, the greater slave you'll become to it." I was watching Joe Budden's podcast last week, and he said that he made this quote. He was talking about music.
Okay.
I don't remember specifically what he was talking about or who he was talking about, but that quote, it hit me so hard when I heard that.
Okay. It applies to more than one genre.
Exactly. Absolutely. Right. And I definitely want to expand that conversation. I don't want to just leave it within the scope of music. But it did take me back to my music days.
Okay.
And some of the decisions that I made and some of the decisions that I refused to make because I refused to become a slave in certain ways. So it was it really hit me hard. But then of course, in just expanding the conversation, it also made me think of people who have businesses or who work and work and work and work and work and essentially become a slave to their jobs. And I understand that the quote is, "The greater your gift is,
right,
the greater slave you are." So your job may not necessarily be a gift, but it can be. It can be.
Okay.
It can be a passion. It can be a gift. It can be just a job. But we can get to that a little later. That's just in expanding the conversation right there. But right now, we can just stick with the gift part.
Okay, so first and foremost, you agree that the greater your gift is, the greater slave you become to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it says the greater slave, that would to me indicate that you are a slave to begin with. Is that correct? Because it said the greater, so I would assume that you would already be in that position where you are a slave to it. And then it makes me want to lean into the definition of slave.
Right, and that's why I was about to go with that. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at that. Let's look at the word slave and what it means to be a slave to your gift.
Well, now, so what does it mean to be a slave at all, first of all?
Okay. So being
when
controlled.
I think, go ahead.
You're being controlled. Your time isn't yours. It's painful at times.
It's involuntary.
It's involuntary.
So that's what I'm curious at. To how do we get into this where it's your gift, but you are put in a position where you are somehow involuntarily motivated, right? So I'm not saying I don't agree with it. I'm just curious. I'm just kind of breaking it down from side to side. And so if I'm a slave to it, that means it has taken me over. It has taken me captive. It is forcing me to make moves that are not necessarily of my will. Right.
Right.
So that being said, I'm curious. I'm looking for an example as to under what circumstance am I becoming a slave to my gift, where it's, you know, it's pushing me to make moves that I don't necessarily even agree with,
Right.
that I really have no conscious decision in. Right.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take it to music.
Okay.
Let's start there. So I clearly have a gift to put words together to make music. So there's my gift. Okay.
Clearly.
And when we say gift, I'm looking at, or when I say gift, I look at, this is something from God.
Okay.
This is something I can take the credit for. I can take the credit for actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as having it, I can't take the credit for that.
Right. You get the
So
victory, he gets the glory. I got you.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when I was in the music industry, there were some people that were trying to get me to do things a certain way. They wanted me to change my style. I kept hearing, "Well, we love what you do, but we need you to dumb it down. You're too smart. You're going over people's heads. So now
Okay.
you're trying to force me into a spot that I don't want to be in." And for me, I looked at it as, okay, I essentially have to give up all control. I have to do things that the label wants me to do, or that my manager wants me to do, or whomever.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of wanting to do this my way, I have to be their slave. What it was is they saw a gift in me. They
Mm-hmm.
saw where they thought that I could be something big and major, but they wanted my gift to be done their way.
Okay.
Um, if we take it back to slavery now,
Mm-hmm.
they saw the biggest, baddest, toughest, slaves, the guys they were big. So they see that as a gift.
Mm-hmm.
But we need you to do what we want you to do with your gift, but you got to do it our way.
Okay. Now that definitely breaks it open a little bit more when you think about, because some cats is just, they just stocky. They just monkey strong for no reason at all, right? And so, and then when you think about that slavery thing, you're right. That's when they was looking at like, yo, this cat looked like he could smack a brick out of building, right? So
Right.
you like, and that's his gift. It ain't something he necessarily, worked on. It's just he got a natural strength. And when I
Mhm.
say he, honestly, I mean we got a natural strength,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And so that definitely, wow, that's crazy actually when you think about it like that, because it's a very literal reference
Mhm.
where just the gift of this strength, the gift of this endurance, right, the
Mhm.
gift of this resilience that we have as a people, and it made us a greater target for slavery.
Mhm.
That's a crazy thing though, right? Because so in that situation, why isn't there fear? Why isn't there a fear of pushing this person too hard and him turning that gift on me? So, and even with the music, you know what I mean? Why isn't there a fear? Because some cats definitely did it when they spoke out against the industry.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were so validated as lyricists.
Mhm.
When they spoke out, people listened. You know what I mean? And,
Mhm.
and so they gained some leverage. They gained some positioning as a result of that situation. And they kind of turned the thing on kind of on its head. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so,
Mhm.
and especially now you don't even. I mean, to speak against a couple of different things as far as like to speak against a label or like to speak against college. Like people feel like they don't need these things anymore.
Right. And you
You know what
don't.
I mean?
You don't. It's really
Yeah.
easy to be independent right now.
Yeah, but that's okay. So that definitely makes it a bit more vivid for me as far as the gift causing you to become a greater slave. That is crazy, but I still want to say like the greatest slave you become to it still gives you the impression that you are a slave to begin with.
Hmm.
So in that statement, if you know that you're a slave to begin with, is there some level of uh, for lack of a better phrase, is there some level of slavery that you will accept?
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I think that's where, going back to the music analogy, that's
Mhm.
where a lot of talent is lost with people who refuse. Like for instance, me. That's why I didn't, and I'm actually proud to say that the industry never told me no. I told them no. But the other side of that is now I don't have the record deal. I've walked away from all of this money that was offered and all these opportunities and things that were offered. I've walked away from all of these things, and now the world doesn't get a chance to hear this music. They don't get a
Mhm.
chance to hear my voice. But the trade-off for me is I have to agree to being a slave.
Well, you would
So
have then, but now is that? I mean, don't you? Wouldn't you say you have the opportunity to put this music out without the fear of slavery, so to speak?
yeah, yeah, because it's
Okay.
easy. And actually, even then, I did the same thing. I just didn't have the resources that we have now. I wasn't
Mhm.
able to just upload an album to Tidal or to Apple Music or Amazon Music. I wasn't, or YouTube. Back then I didn't have those types of resources. So yeah, it is
Mhm.
easier now, but back then I did continue to make the music.
Mhm.
And I did continue to, we had CDs, we selling CDs out of the trunk, we're
Mhm.
traveling and going places, I'm doing all of the things that we would be able to do with a major label, but just on a much, much, much smaller level.
Okay, got you. I got you.
Because of course, when you have that label backing, you just, you know, the,
Mhm.
the things like all kinds of doors open up for you. Um, but I think back then it was I refused to allow my gift to make me a slave.
Okay,
And
so well, let me ask this then. So, would you say that you have to? Would you advise another to accept the consequence of their gift in exchange for what would be perceived as success?
well, I would have a conversation with the person about what exactly it is that they. First of all, you got to know yourself.
Okay.
You have to know what you are capable of dealing with, and that makes you that makes you start to think a little more.
Mhm.
And that's why I had to do a lot of thinking about what I was willing to accept. And I knew that I couldn't put up with it, but there are people who can. I've
Okay.
spoken to artists that said, "Yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat." I was
Mhm.
told, I was told one time, sometimes you have to do what you don't necessarily want to do to make it. Now, you make this music that they want you to make, and then once you
Mhm.
get out there and you get established, then you can do your own thing.
Okay.
And my response to that was, if I get out there and I make it, I drop this album and it is very well received and I make all of this money, but it's not me, it's not what I wanted to do. I gotta wake up and look at myself in the mirror and I'm not gonna like what I see. So it's not worth it for me. Now,
Mhm.
so going back to the question you asked, if I have that conversation with somebody and I tell them that was why I made the decision, are you willing to be able to make that sacrifice? Do you think that you can still look at yourself in the mirror? If you think you
Mhm.
can look yourself in the mirror every morning, then by all means, do your thing. You
Mhm.
go ahead and you get your success. I don't think that it's wrong if somebody makes that decision to to essentially, I guess, be a slave in exchange for success. I
Or
don't
would
think,
you?
because it's their decision. So
Okay.
and if they're okay with it, then I can't tell them they're wrong.
Well, okay, so I can understand that maybe what you're saying is that you wouldn't judge them, but would they categorize themselves inadvertently as a sellout?
They may not. Now, if they feel as though that they would see themselves as a sellout, I would advise them not to do it.
Well, that's why I say inadvertently. So it's not their intention to be a sellout, but that's the way they
Okay.
would be
Yes,
perceived. You know what I mean? That's the way they would be perceived in that situation. But it's like that's what I'm saying. It's like there's some things that you have to, you have to make some sacrifices. You have to make some compromise, simply because you and specifically in that industry, your goal is to please more than you.
right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you want to be happy with what you put out, but you got to know that your audience is not just you, right? So, so in that situation, it seems like you would have to accept some degree of slavery, or the phrase that comes to mind is a means to an end, right? And so that being said, that phrase is always in reference to a time where, okay, I don't necessarily enjoy what I'm doing, but I got my eye on the ultimate goal. And this is just another rung on the ladder, right? So as long as it is that, because a means to an end does not refer to a situation that causes lateral movement, right? It's a reluctant step forward. You know what I mean? So I know it sounds bad because because the word slave is used. Right. So it carries such a negative connotation. But when you think about it, in what other instance am I maybe a slave? My family. I always wanted to be a father and a husband. So for me to become a quote unquote a slave to that, it's not really the worst situation for me. I love when I gotta move for my family.
Yeah, but what the slave mean? I tell you, you know what? Let's do this. I'm gonna look up the definition.
No, don't look in the book. Don't look in the book. How dare you, black man, look in a book in February?
Okay, the definition of slave.
Right.
A person who is the legal property of another and is forced to obey them. But here's another one, verb. The verb form of slave is to work excessively hard.
Okay, well, that actually kind of
Opens it up even
undermines.
more now.
Yeah, because it undermines the negativity, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so for that situation, I mean, by that definition, I'm happily a slave, right?
Right. Now, I also see a person who is excessively dependent upon or controlled by something.
Okay, still not necessarily a negative situation.
You don't think so? Being controlled by something.
Well,
So it's a person who is excessively dependent upon or controlled by something. I think that's real negative. You're excessively dependent upon something. First of all, I don't like being dependent on nothing and nobody, but to be excessively dependent and controlled, and I definitely don't like being controlled.
Well, but see, it kind of, to me, I think about inspiration. And when I think about, like, if I write poetry, I am excessively controlled by authentic inspiration. I can't write on assignment just because it's been given to me. It don't feel right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I have to call on an inspiration. It's absolutely necessary for that to come out for me, to really feel what I'm writing. Now, I mean, I can't even say that. I'm trying to think of some instance in which it wouldn't matter much to me. But when it comes to my words mean everything to me. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I don't know, to be excessively controlled by that passion or need for that inspiration. Otherwise, I can't produce. I think some people would call that genius. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I would call that genius. I would call that inspiration. I would
Mm-hmm.
not call it slavery or being a slave. I would not call it that
Well, I mean, by the definition that you gave, though, how does it not fit?
because I don't think I'm necessarily controlled by it. Me and my gift work together.
Okay,
You
but
don't
if
work
you
together with the person or the thing that enslaves you. It controls you. It tells you what to do. But me and my gift, we are a team. And the fact of the matter is, to further prove that I'm not a slave to it, if I don't want to do it, I ain't got to do it. But if I'm a
well,
slave, I have no choice.
well, no, that's not true. I wouldn't say I agree with that because what you're choosing is the consequence for not doing.
But
Right?
what
If you
so if I choose not to write a song or a poem or whatever, how is that? What's the consequence?
the consequence is that you're not producing. You know what I'm saying? There's no product. If somebody calls upon you, to produce something or to write something for them, and you're saying I'm not inspired, so I can't do it. The consequence is, all right, you don't get this check I was gonna cut you. You know what I mean? There's consequence to everything. That's
Right.
just
But what if that check, that money was attached to something else that I don't necessarily want to be attached to, that's going to further make me a slave?
well, I mean, again, we're still talking about a means to an end, right? And so I think that that's what a lot of this has to do with, by the way, when it says the greater your gift is, the greater slave you become to it. You're going to start to cover that umbrella of what is a means to an end is going to, I've done air quotes way too many times, but that that umbrella of what is a means to an end is going to cover, it's going to begin to expand what actually falls under that, for you in order to be what it is that you want it to be. So um because when it says the greater your gift, that's like you're building upon your gift, and as you build upon your gift, then the greater slave you become to it, the greater dependency you have on it, the less amount of choices you have to make as a result of how big this gift has gotten. And so um I lost my train of thought. I did. I did. I began to pontificate and I lost my train of thought. Um,
Or pontificating to do that to you.
yeah.
I'll be pontificating and then forgetting all the other stuff that I'll be trying to say.
Yeah. I completely got sidetracked and that wasn't healthy at all. That doesn't even feel good. But, wow. I'm somehow just going to have to back it up because I completely lost my train of thought. That is horrible.
You want me to get in game?
I definitely need you to plug in here.
All right, cool. So all right, so let's look at it like this. So it says the greater your gift is, the greater slave that you'll become to it. Does that also mean that if you were great at what you do, then essentially more is required from you?
Well, yeah, but that's in every situation, right?
Mhm.
As far as the word says, to whom much is given, much is required, right?
Right.
By
Mhm.
the word, I mean the Bible. Everybody does not know the word is the Bible, but it says, to whom much is given, much is required. So you have to accept that. You got to accept the responsibility of that situation, even in a situation like you don't even know everybody that's watching you, everybody that is gleaning something from what it is that you're doing. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? But you're operating in your gift, so you just kind of got to trust it. Um, yeah, that's 100%. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to man up. You're gonna have to stand up in areas that you wouldn't before. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's a lot of integrity involved there. So just because you not only do you never know who's watching. So in my mind, when it comes to that situation of the greater your gift, and the greatest slave, and the more people are watching, you can't be so concerned about who's watching, but you do have to be concerned about what they see.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So because people that you watch, you don't even know everybody that's watching.
Right.
That's why your focus needs to be more on what they see, so that way it doesn't matter who's watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that you should also operate in a way as if people are always watching. And I think that also, especially when we're looking at like celebrities, whatever, that also makes you a slave to your gift, because you have absolutely no privacy. You are who you are. You know, when we are watching TV, we see a person playing a role, or we're listening to music, or we're watching it, we hear a person singing a song, and that's who they are. They are an artist, they are an actor. To them, they are a human being, and they are that 100% of the time. But you know, with them, they have to be out in the public eye. And if they're sitting at a restaurant, you know, for instance, let's okay, I'm just going to throw a name out here. Let's say Eminem, right? So Eminem is sitting at a restaurant having dinner with his daughter.
You couldn't give a black man. It's February.
And you know, it's funny you said it, because that was the first thing that came to my mind when I said that. But I mean,
shout out to Eminem, but it's February.
Right. But no, the reason I brought this up is because I think I recalled a story where he was having dinner or something like that with his daughter, and people were bothering him, whatever.
Oh,
so
that sounds like a song on his second or third album.
Yeah. But I think, and that's what that, you know, that's why I came up with this thought. But you know, to everybody else that's watching, hey, look, that's Eminem. But to him at that moment, I'm Marshall Mathers.
Right.
You know, so it's like you have involuntarily made yourself a slave just because you were hungry and wanted to have dinner. You know, you're sitting there, but because of the gift that you have, it is making you a slave to that gift. You just want to sit there and be Marshall Mathers. Everybody else wants Eminem.
All right, now I have to point out that while you didn't choose a black man in this month of February for that example, that you did just make a white man a slave. So I think we broke even on that one. I'm just saying, and that wasn't even like that was sheerly the greater his gift, the greater slave he became. Like, I don't know. If he was not who he is, he would not have become a slave in that scenario. So, you brought that right on home. You could have just saved that for the end of the show. That was great. That was air high five on that one. That was great. But also, in reference to that, you know, you're right. You don't get the opportunity. Like, he doesn't get the opportunity to just be himself, to just be his daughter's father, or to just be Marshall Mathers. Instead, because he's a slave to his gift, he has to protect that persona that it calls upon, that it calls for him to be. You know what I mean? So he has to be Eminem all the time.
Right.
So, and that in that, yeah, the statement is definitely true when you think about it like that. Like wow, like and it kind of I wonder, like, because the goal is, I guess, I don't know, is the goal to be as big a star, or as well, I would say, so taking it away from celebrity, the goal would be to put your best foot forward in whatever it is you're doing, right? Whether you're a celebrity or not. So I guess the other way of saying this is that, you know, you can't fear success because of what it may call for you to produce. Yeah, I mean, instead you just gotta look, it's my gift. I'm gonna take it as far as I can take it. And as a result, yeah, I'm gonna have to do what I have to do to shoulder all of this that comes with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's interesting. I don't know. I guess I'm thinking to myself, is this the one positive twist on slavery? You know what I
What?
mean? Just being a slave to your gift. Like, I guess it's a contradictory to say that I give in to that. I accept being a slave to my gift when being a slave is more of an involuntary effort. It's a contradiction to say so. Or I don't know, but it just seems like, if you're a slave to your gift and willing, I don't know. It seems like a contradiction. So let's stop there. Let's answer that question first. Is that a contradiction for me to just accept that? Specifically to the statement, is it a contradiction for me to volunteer to be a slave? You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, if we're just looking at words right now, yes,
Right.
it's a contradiction.
All right.
But I mean, if we're looking at the words, it's a contradiction. But once we put these words together and what that sentence means at that point, I don't think that it's a contradiction. Just because, when you get into certain things, you have these gifts and you sign up to be able to display your gift. You don't necessarily sign up for the other things that come with the territory.
Ooh, you know what that reminds me of? I think it was a Lil Wayne, God bless him, interview where they were saying he was a role model. He was like, I'm a rapper. I didn't ask to be nobody's role model. I'm a rapper. You know what I mean? And so that was one of the things that came with it, but he certainly didn't ask for that. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And I remember when I was younger, that was my mentality. I was thinking, all right, I'm trying to get into this rap game, but that's what I want to be. I want to be a rapper. I don't want to be a role model. I don't need people looking up to me. And then as I got older, I realized you have no choice.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting take on it because I would imagine at that point you had a rapper that you looked up to.
Exactly.
And
exactly, whether they wanted to be a role model or not.
Right. So you was like, all right, I want to be like him, but when I get there, I don't want to be responsible for the same situation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. But I mean, you get older and wiser, and you realize like I can't continue to think like that. When you are, that you have a responsibility. When you have a voice, when you have a voice that is far-reaching, when you have a voice and you're able to move the masses, when you're able to touch people, you have a responsibility at that point. And some people lean into that responsibility and they make sure that they try to keep a clean image because they know people are watching, or because that's just who they are. They are just genuinely good people. But then you have other people who understand that they may not be the best person to look up to. And they don't want that. They don't want, it's like, listen, I have a gift. I understand I have a gift and I'm out here and I'm displaying my gift and I'm making money and I'm becoming successful by using my gift. However, these other things that come with me, I don't want you looking up to me. Because the thing is this, you may look up to me for my gift, but because of my gift and because of my influence, you may also want to do these other things that I'm doing that you probably shouldn't be doing.
So now that's interesting though, because if you can make the decision not to be a role model as a celebrity, in that you're choosing, well, first of all, you're making a choice, which as a slave, that's not an option, really.
Right.
or I guess it is. I guess you always have a choice. You either choose, the consequences, what I mean, of disobedience, or what's the word, non-compliance, I guess, or you choose to move forward without the lashing. You know what I mean? But I guess that right there. I would say, kind of taking it out of the context of literal slavery, that would be like the middle ground, right? Where there are certain decisions that you can make that says, okay, I'm only going to compromise so far.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm only going to pick 50 pounds of cotton, homie. After that,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to have to find somebody else. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
So you're a decision making slave.
yeah, what I mean, you don't have a slave mentality.
Right.
You got a slave position. You know what I mean? And you're refusing to adapt. But I mean, I guess on a couple of different instances, I have to, I don't know, agree, and then I can kind of take it apart where maybe it doesn't necessarily apply, but I come right back around to it. I hate to be a slave to it, but I don't know. Is it? I mean, is it really a bad thing to be a slave to the gift? I mean, because it's a gift, man. I don't know when it comes to that creative side, like your music and stuff like that. And I know you said slave to it, but it just means I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I'm gonna do what it's telling me to do, what it's leading me to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right. What about and we can take it off music and just make it more general. But what about the person who has this gift and they become such a slave to it that now they're losing their family?
Well, I guess that's a matter of priority, right? And where your values lie. Um, because it is kind of difficult in the midst of the situation where if you believe in your gift and you're losing your family in pursuit of this gift, then there is one perspective that can say, that you're acting selfishly, right? And you're moving only on, as if it only affects you. On the other hand, you can figure, I need my family to believe in me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As I pursue it. So, um, I don't know, because sometimes you just need your family to hold you down. You know,
What if they aren't willing to? Well, let me not say what if they're not willing to. What if they don't see what you see? Because this is your vision, so you can't expect people to see your vision. So, but what if
well,
they can't see what you see, and it's not that they are necessarily against you; they just don't understand or know how to be for you.
well, like you said, what if? Well, not like you said, but it's an interesting question to say or statement to make when you say, "What if they can't see your vision?" But then to
Mhm.
also say, essentially, only you can see your vision, right? And so there you have the difference between sympathy and empathy. Somebody that has experienced a situation and somebody that has watched somebody experience the situation, right? So um, I guess in that, it's just a matter of communication and leadership because you cannot um, you cannot just expect a blind trust, right? Because you believe in it and that's it. There's got to be some space where you all come together and say, all right, I need you to believe in me and this is why. Or it can be on a higher level of spirituality to simple say, like I mean, honestly, in a Christian household, like in my household, if I'm telling my wife that God has told me something, that she doesn't have a question about that because she trusts my relationship with God. You know what I mean? So
Right,
at that point, she doesn't have to see it, but she, in order to believe in it. You know what I mean?
right.
But yeah, I would imagine it's a hard way to go if, especially for a man, you're in a position of leadership, you got responsibility, and you want to pursue this, and you're not. I would imagine you're not pursuing it just for yourself. You know how your family is going to benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess but that still has to be communicated. And I mean, there's many a situation that I'm sure the story can be told where nobody believed in a cat until he got to where he was going.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They couldn't see the vision. They didn't know.
Right. Yeah, they couldn't see it, and so you can't blame them for
Right.
that. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I kind of it's a two-edged sword, because when you have a cat that pursues it like that, that truly is a slave to it, and then when they hit that, they rain dance the situation. You know what I mean? And I say rain dance. The reason that the rain dance works 100% of the time, because them cats don't stop dancing until it rains. You know what I'm saying? They don't stop dancing until it rains. I don't care if it's 3 weeks before it rained. When it rained, as far as they was concerned, it rained because I was dancing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when you got a cat that's pushing that hard for it, that accepts, accepts it and the draw from it making decisions for him, that's a hard place to be, because you can't really even explain the vision to the people, the people around you. They see you and you see the vision.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the only way I could say only way you could operate in that is you can't just say that you see it. So if they can't see your vision, you still have to show them something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So they can't see exactly what you see, but you have to decide what they need to see in order to allow you to pursue what you see. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And but sometimes them not seeing your vision can be terrifying, because your vision could be something that in their mind is a huge, huge risk. Like, perfect example, it took a little while for my wife to get comfortable with me trading stocks,
Mm-hmm.
because to her it was a huge risk.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, to me it was a huge risk too. I mean, because I understand the way the market works,
Right.
But for me, I was willing to go ahead and take that chance. And she saw me many times, many nights, many days where I was, I'm looking at these charts, I'm studying the market, and I'm putting my money into it, and then I'm losing, and I'm getting frustrated, and I keep coming back to it, and finally she asked me one day. She said, "I don't understand this." She said, "But I don't understand, why do you keep going back?"
Mm-hmm.
Didn't understand. She couldn't see the vision. She didn't understand that I needed to go through these losses to get to the point where I was going to start gaining. But I didn't know how to explain that to her. There was no way that I could make that make sense to her. All she knew, like, this was just, I don't know, maybe a glorified form of the lottery, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's a little bit different, because, I don't know. Is there a science to something like that? When it comes to the trading, I don't know much about it. So, is there a science to it that you can
Yeah,
actually,
it is. It is.
that you can get?
There are certain things that you could implement by reading charts and things like that. It's not always accurate, but
But see, now in that situation, now you're making her a slave to your gift.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you have the gift of being able to maybe understand, these charts. A gift of maybe being able to understand even the emotion of the situation. Because you've spoken in reference to how emotional. I think, I think that's what the term you use, how emotional the market is. But it's a gift for you to be able to read it for anybody. If you can actually profit off the market being as volatile as it's said to be, and the fact that risk is always a word used in that discussion, right? Yeah, risk is always that a word used in that discussion. So, but you have a gift, for it, that is allowing you to profit. But now she's secondhand or subsequently she becomes a slave to your gift because now she has to endure certain things involuntarily. It's not something that she signed up for. It's not even something. It's something that if you weren't in place, that she wouldn't even pursue.
Mhm.
But she got to go through it with you. You know what I mean? So that's even just another aspect of it. How um, it's not just you that becomes a slave, or that is affected by you becoming a slave.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
actually makes it a little bit. That actually makes it a little bit scarier as well when you, um, I mean, you want to get there, especially at this age. When I think about things that I want to pursue right now that I didn't pursue when I was 25, and I'm like, man, I got too many kids. I got too much responsibility right now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I can't just jump out there. But I mean, it's a gift. I don't know. When that word gift is kind of special to me when you think about when you identify what your gift is and what God has given you. It's how like how would it be detrimental to be a slave to God?
Um, Boy, that was good. That was good. But what does it mean? Let's go there. What does it mean to be a slave to God? See, so here's the thing. If you become a slave to your gift,
Mhm,
and there are other areas in your life that start lacking, for instance, your family,
mhm,
okay? You're being a slave to a gift that God gave you, but because of your work ethic or your commitment or your whatever you see, whatever your vision is, it's taking you away from your family. Now, God doesn't want you taken away from your family.
mhm.
So at that point, if you can't really say I'm being a slave to God
True.
because because God ain't having that. That ain't why I gave you this gift so you can neglect your family.
Right, and I digress because the statement does say the greater your gift, not the greater the giver. Right.
Right, right.
Right. So it is still. I digress. I digress. We are still speaking of being a slave to the gift, not to the gift giver. Right. So
Right.
okay. So I like I said, I digress. Um, but I still kind of I don't know. This is kind of interesting to me. I would like to know what that feels like to be a slave to your gift because to have that. I mean, doesn't it simply just mean to be driven? Doesn't it just mean to be, self motivated to some degree?
It's more than that. It's so much more than that. It's the reason, like going back to uh, my music example.
Mm,
I had to walk away from it because I was going to be required to be a slave. I wasn't driven to do the things that they wanted me to do that would essentially have me in a position of being a slave. That wasn't drive. That had nothing to do with my drive. That
mm,
had to do with me not wanting to be a slave, not wanting to be controlled, not wanting them to tell me what to do and how to do it. This is
mm,
my gift. You don't get to touch my gift. I need y'all to handle the business.
mm.
You can't touch my creative process.
Okay, so at some point you have to decide: is this gift worth me being a slave?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Okay,
And for me, it wasn't worth it. It was not worth it.
but being a slave again couldn't just be a temporary situation. It couldn't be a means to an end.
Nah. And see, the thing is, the reason that it's not worth it is because I can't predict the future. I don't know
Mm,
where this slavery is going to lead me. I don't
mm,
know if I drop this one album here. I
mm,
don't know if it's going to get me more success. So what if it doesn't get me any more success? I've dropped one album, it was garbage, I hated it because it's not what I wanted to do. And now
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a second shot to show you my true gift and what I really have. That's not worth it to me.
So how would you not have a second shot though?
Well, there's that sophomore slump. And if you don't bounce back with that third album, it's a wrap for you. Also, you could be you could be a one-hit wonder.
I mean, but you could reinvent yourself. I mean, at this point, uh, the average millennial probably has no idea who Titty Boy is.
Right, true.
Meanwhile, 2 Chainz is 2 Chainz.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So and
yeah.
I guess even being that that it could call for you to reinvent yourself. It could call for you to make the mental adjustment to somehow lean in to the slavery.
But see,
Taking. Go ahead.
did he lean in though? Because here's the thing though. When you are exceptional, you are the exception to the rule. So that's what he is. Yeah, he reinvented himself, but he's exceptional at what he does. So he's the exception to the rule. But the rule, for the most part, how many people are really bouncing back? How many people are really able to reinvent themselves?
Well, I mean, but that's when you say how many people, everybody has the opportunity, right? You just got
No,
to really.
how many people who do it
Well,
and
I
have
mean, but
been
that's.
successful at doing it?
But I mean, but that's like saying how many people are really doing what they want to do. Most people are not. You know what I mean? Most people are not. But you have an opportunity every time that you wake up, every moment that you breathe, you have an opportunity to be doing. If you're not doing what you want to do, you do have an opportunity to do that. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
But
so
the
he,
quote
go ahead.
but the quote, I mean, as far as being a slave to it, that goes past opportunity. At this
Mm-hmm.
point, we've taken advantage of the opportunity and we are now successful as a result of taking advantage of the opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
we're past opportunity at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about we working, we're successful, we are successful slaves.
Well, I mean, but I guess, but to continue to be so, you're gonna have to learn how to pivot anyway, because things are gonna change. Things are going to evolve
Right,
as
true.
things move forward. So if you want to rise, right, with the tide, then you're gonna have to adjust. You're gonna have to learn how to read it. You know what I mean?
Right,
And and
absolutely.
and, and then you're gonna have to learn how to respond to it. And that's what I mean. That's what he did. That's why I say he kind of leaned into it because, uh, I mean, you just have to, and that's kind of part of being like a slave to it in a way, just kind of accepting that if this is what I want, then this is what I have to do.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, and
Or
I
this is
guess,
what I have to deal with.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm
but
saying,
so
I'm
it's
saying
just
both of them. This is what I have to do, and this is what I have to deal with.
right. Okay, yeah,
Mm.
I would agree with that, and that's a choice to be made. If this is, and well, I mean, if that's the I don't know the only foreseeable route to get wherever it is that you're trying to go.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I go back to a means to an end. Um, Sometimes you may just, I mean, you never want to have to compromise yourself as far as your character, right?
Hmm.
Um, like, these idiots just asking women to do sexual favors and so on and so forth. It's the dumbest thing in the world, but you know, they should never be asked to do that, right?
Hmm.
But I guess maybe to some degree that we're going back to that slave thing. I
Hmm.
don't like that word, by the way. I hate that word more than I ever did following this particular podcast. I hate that word. like I think I probably said it more in the last 54 minutes than I have said it in the last 5 years.
Yo, in February.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, that's just the worst. But I think ultimately it rings true. You just have to decide whether or not it's going to carry a negative connotation or not.
Mhm.
And you decide, okay, this is who I'm going to be. As a result, this is what I'm going to achieve. And like you said earlier, if you have peace with yourself with that situation,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Who cares about the judgment of anybody else watching? If you have achieved what you call success and done everything that you need to do to get there, and you're good with it, then uh, so be it. And, you. That's how Prince ended up on stage with "slave" written on his
You know,
face.
I've had the vision of him doing that like 10 times since we've been talking.
I mean, it's that was kind of I don't even know everything that surrounded that, but I mean, you're making a statement, plain and simple.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, it was a shot at his label. They were trying to make him a slave. He's actually a perfect example. You see how great his gift is.
mhm,
Prince is, in my opinion, the greatest musician that we've ever seen. I don't know if we'll ever
okay,
see anything like that, but I mean, but he's so great. And he was so great at what he did that he became a slave to it.
hmm
He became a slave to it. And even when he was able to break away from them and do his own thing, because that's when he changed his name to the symbol,
hmm
whatever, and all that stuff, to kind of get away from all of that stuff. So, um, but I guess some could say, well, you still work tirelessly to produce music for yourself and for other people. You were constantly touring, you were constantly doing this and doing that or whatever. But so that makes you continue to be a slave to your gift.
hmm
But if you ask him at that point when he was no longer attached to the label that was trying to make him a slave or that made him a slave, would that be his answer? Would he say, yes, I am a slave to this? And I mean that question is for anybody who's doing something, doing it at a high level. But maybe when other people are watching, it's like, well, you work hard, you do a lot. Like, when do you get a chance to rest? When do you have time to yourself? When do you have time to spend with your family? You are a slave to what you're doing. What if that's not their response? Well, I mean, I'm sorry. What if their response is, no, I'm not. I'm not a slave.
hmm
I'm just leaning into my gift.
Well, I mean, you figure you start a business, you're the first employee, but you're also the boss.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And as you work to build that, you have to do some, you got to get your hands dirty. You might have to be that one slaving away night and day in order to build that. But you don't mind doing that because you're doing it for you. You're doing it for
Mhm.
your family. You are not doing it in order to achieve somebody else's dream. And I think that right there would be the deciding factor for me. I full on, I don't mind being a slave on my plantation. You know what I mean? I'm good with that.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? I'm picking these cotton on my acres. I'm good with that. Call it what you may. But at some point, you're gonna have to get off my property. You know what I mean? So boom. That's where I'm at. I'm good with that. I don't mind being a slave on my plantation. And I think that sums up the whole situation for me, as a matter of fact.
So basically,
Mhm.
I won't be a slave, but I don't mind slaving.
Done. Done.
Cool.
I'd rather be a verb than a noun at any point anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's just the real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. I'd much rather be that. So I'm with it. I appreciate this one. This was a good one. I don't even follow Joe like that, but it made me want to listen to him, see what else he got to say about whatever. You know.
It's a great show. It really is. I'm not going to give them too many props because they ain't doing that for our podcast. So
Hey, it's February. We can lift one another up. You know what I mean? We can lift him up. It's cool. And we ain't saying go listen, but we just saying he doing his thing.
True.
Yeah.
But I'm still a businessman. So Joe, if you ain't gonna cut a check or do the same for us, I'm gonna listen, but I ain't gonna tell nobody I'm listening.
I get you.
No. I'm joking. It really is a phenomenal show. I love the podcast. I really do.
That's
A lot of insight on that podcast. So yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
nah, he can still cut a check though.
I hear you. You gotta handle your business, no doubt. So okay. Well, I think this was a good one. I'm looking at the clock and where we wanted to keep it at right around an hour. And,
right.
I think this was a dope one. Yeah, I think it was a dope episode. We asked you all at the event that you are listening to go ahead and comment. Tell us what you think. If you don't mind being a slave on your plantation or whatever plantation. I know I just turned a gift into a plantation, right? But at any rate, we'd like to hear your feedback. Yeah, right. But we'd like to hear your feedback and see what else you all have to say about it. I think it'd be dope to continue the conversation. We'll have no problem doubling back should we get a big enough response, right?
Yeah, we will love that. Absolutely. So, all right, everybody. We thank you for your time.
I don't remember how you said we was gonna end this.
Oh, I remember.
Oh, I think I remember. Go ahead.
All right. So, all right, y'all. Again, we thank you for your time. Hopefully, you enjoyed the show. And tune in next week where we talk about.
Ooh, I was supposed to come with another quote this time, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were.
You know what? We should have talked about that beforehand. This is becoming a habit of mine. I'm gonna go ahead and make it a brand. So next week is gonna be a surprise, and you're gonna have to show up. You're gonna have to show up. You're gonna have to follow me on Instagram. You're gonna have to follow him on Instagram. You're gonna have to follow us on Instagram. Maybe we'll drop a couple of breadcrumbs as to what to next week's topic or quote might be. Because right now I do not have it. So,
so I guess we should probably give them our Instagram handles then.
Yeah, but mine is at Uncommonterry.
Mine is author Tyrell James.
Author, we got to get into that stuff there too. We ain't talk about that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you got a book, with the quotes in it that we can. Yeah, that we can. All right, we're gonna get into it. But hold on. So again, how did you say we was gonna end the show?
Oh, so it's real simple and it rhymes. And on that note, and I quote, peace out.
Peace out.